Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Scale Riders podcast episode. I'm your host, 65 Lokes. This is episode number 255. I am here with Shane, also known as Man Cave Models. What's up, Shane? How you doing, man?
What's up, Edgar? Just chilling.
Nice, man. Nice. Hey, thank you for being on the podcast. It's been some years, since
Yep.
we're doing this finally. Because just to bring everybody up to speed, some years back we had planned out to do a podcast episode. And I remember, we already had the date, the time, and everything set to go. And we were getting ready. And there's a huge time difference, like right now, we just started. It's 10 p.m. here. What's the time on your side?
1 o'clock.
See, it's one. Like, so during that time, it was like the same thing. It was like one, we're like, all right, let's get started. And right before we were gonna like connect, there was like 30 minutes before. I remember my lady telling me like, hey, our daughter has a fever, like she's come down and she was with her, and I was just like, oh dang, I'm getting ready to record a podcast. And she's like, well, she's not feeling good. And she she was worried because like she was starting to heat up. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like I felt so bad. I was like, yo, like, I have to hit up Shane. So I remember I hit you up and I told you, and you were like so cool about it, and I felt bad, that had happened, that I was like, man, like we'll make it up, we'll do it up. And
Yeah.
and I feel like after that, even then, I didn't do any more podcasts for a long time. Like I just was like on a hiatus right after that. And I was like, dang. So all that time to now we're here, and I'm just excited. This time we're doing it on video. Last time it was just gonna be like over the phone kind of thing, and
Mhm.
now,
It was going to be our second one, actually.
yeah, that was gonna be our second one. Cause yeah, I remember
So,
when we had done the first time we did an episode together, we were getting to like know each other during that
yeah.
time. You know, that was a long time ago right there. Because I remember you were linked up with like with H-Town Model Shop with Freddie
hmm
during that time. I remember
Yeah.
you guys had done something like a giveaway or something for like,
Uh,
can't
no,
remember what it
me,
was.
or him and George and me got together and did the coronavirus uh, show or model show on Instagram. So I'd known Freddie for a while before that, and of course, known George longer. But, we all three of us decided, to host a coronavirus show on Instagram, and I think we had some sponsors and, we gave out trophies and everything. It was mainly uh, people's choice, or, people voted and all that. So we did that because, that was whenever everything was shut down and all the shows was canceled. So,
Yeah, that's a trip. Real quick, I just want to say what's up to everybody who's tuning in right now. And also want to shout out Slowly Models. He's in the chat room right now. So anybody else who's watching this, I want to say what's up. Or any questions, that I'm gonna read off later to Shane, hit me up. Drop a line on there. And yeah, I know we chat, we text each other, we catch up on stuff. And for those of you, with Shane, through Instagram, we've connected through there throughout the time and the years, and we have a lot of mutual friends as well. And over time, I've been like just seeing like the style and learning a lot about Shane, especially with the builds he does. I know he's like a huge like a Ford fan because there's a lot of Fords, especially like the Mobius kits. Those are some of your favorites.
yeah, you can't. There's so many styles and stuff, and so many different ways that you can actually build them. So, I mean, there's just endless combinations with those trucks.
Yeah, and it's a trip because when Mobius was busting out with some of those, the Fords, there was like certain ones that would come out with, and then more years kept coming out.
Mhm.
And knowing like my homie, or him too, Luis, LXC
Yeah.
models, he's also
hmm
like a Ford fan. So
Right.
through
A big
him,
Bronco fan.
yeah, and Brocco, he would be like, hey, are you gonna get it? So, it would get me hyped. My grandfather has a Ford too. and we would just start collecting the kits, you know? And then when I
Mhm.
started seeing your stuff, I was like, man, he's actually like building them. Like his are sick, you know?
Yeah.
But then over time, as I was getting to know you, I would see the like the type of wheels that you were putting in there, the stance and all this stuff. And you're showing me a little bit more behind the scenes that I was like, yo, like he's making it even more exciting than just building the kit out of box, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how
I
many of
think
those do
every
you have now? Those kits?
built or just unbuilt.
Both.
Uh, I think I have built like 8 to 10, and I've got at least 15, maybe 20 in the stash over here still. And of course, I hadn't picked up any of the new latest releases, like the Wrecker or the Snowplow or the four-wheel drive custom one that they just came out with. I haven't bought any of them yet, but I've probably got every bit of that still.
Dang. So like when those are coming out, when they're busting out with them, do you tend to buy like a couple copies or like a few copies at a time or just one?
It just depends. I usually buy at least two. Uh, if it's a Model King release, I'll tend to buy a little bit more because those are limited production runs. So
Mhm.
once they run out, and everybody's scrambling trying to get it, the prices go sky high on them. So usually those, like I said, I'll tend to pick up three or four. You
Nice,
know,
man.
just because you can interchange everything from 67 to 72. You know, grills, all that. You can put that on any one of them because the only difference is basically the grill. Between the years. So I mean, that's all. That's the only difference between those trucks, unless you got a 67, which you can go deeper in. 67 was a 1 year. They had their own, the door panels or the door insides was different. Uh, Something else. Oh, and they had pull knobs for the heater control instead of the controls that they used in 68 to 72. So, I mean, there is a little bit of difference between them, but most part, nobody's going to know the difference or tell the difference on the table. So
Yeah, are you happy with like the quality that the Mobius builds, that they're being produced?
I would buy Mobius. I like a Revell kit a lot, but some of the Mobius, I think they're better than some of the Revell kits that came out.
Yeah, because I've seen like some of the AMT ones like a while back, and then like I would say most of my friends they go after more the vintage AMT kits when it comes down to like some of the Ford trucks. I remember I used to see this one that was like a long bed one. I would always see it at I think at Hobby Lobby and Michael's. Those were like the like two of the stores I would commonly see those kits. It's like a white Ford truck, like long bed. I think it has flames on it too, on the artwork.
Don't remember. Oh, that was the Firestone uh, 79 model truck. Is
Hmm.
4-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. That was the Firestone truck that they did. But that kit right there, it's horrible. I mean, it don't fit and the accuracy of stuff.
Yeah, it's all warped or
I
what?
would really see someone come out with a decent 73 to 79 truck kit because,
Hmm.
like I said, it's just horrible. The headlights are molded into the grill, no holes in the grill. I mean, it's a definitely a AMT kit.
Dang, that's a trip. Yeah, man, it's I've been thinking back at like, with how long you've been doing this, like model building. I know I've asked you in the past, like when did you get started and everything, but it's like you've experienced, the everything from the Instagram, like Facebook, YouTube, back even to the message boards, right?
Yeah, I used to be on Model Car Magazine forum really big when I got back into it around '08, and so I was real big on the Model Car Forum magazine or Model Car Magazine forum, and I met quite a few people, and that's where I learned about Acme, the Atlanta show. So I think I first went to it in right around 2012, but I just went down as a spectator that year. And, I went down there. I thought I had some good stuff until I walked down there, and I was just like, "Yep, if I'm gonna come down here and show, I'm gonna have to step up my game."
Man, that's a trip. Cause yeah, like I know what you mean. Like when you go somewhere and you're just like, all right, I think I got some, some cool stuff, and then next thing you know, you're like, whoa, like you get blown away. You're just
Hmm.
like tripping out. But instead of looking at it as like, like a negative thing, like, oh man, like my bills aren't that good, like, nah, I can't do this. It's probably best to go more the motivational route, right? Where you're like, all right, like I think I know what I need to do. I need to go back to doing some homework, get back to the drawing board and like rework some of these models or start from scratch and get ready for the next year.
Yeah, that's what I did. Of course, that's when I joined. There's a local club here that started back up, so I joined them guys, and you know, and I started dabbing more into the aftermarket stuff. Like Ken's Fuzzy Fur. Uh, Blackwash. I started doing. I was already doing plug wires, and then um, I learned how to make my own headers out of solder. Use aluminum pipe for exhaust. They was some company, I can't remember the name of them now. They used to make these round tube mufflers, kind of like the ones. Oh, what's that, Mister, that you carry? Not Mister
Oh.
Hobby.
Yeah,
Is it
Mr.
Mister
Model?
Model? Yeah, Mister Model. But he was making something like that, so we was buying them up, and then I started getting in, the doing the braided flex, radiator hoses and stuff, and then of course it just trickled on to battery cables and aluminum pulleys, aluminum fans, making my own fuel lines. It just trickled all the way down to there. But every time I would get something, I wouldn't try it on the build that I was actually working on. So I always call them test cars. I just have like some piece of junk kit, that bought for $5. You know, just paint it, throw stuff together on it, and then, I'm just like, okay, but I used it to test, like the black wash or learning how to do the Ken's Fuzzy Fur, to do flocking, you know. And I eventually, I was selling them cars on eBay until we found some of my kits on a table at a show underneath some other guy's name. So I quit selling them. But by that time too, I got to where, all right, you know, it was one and done stuff kind of deal after that. So if I bought something to try and to do, I just I just did it. And whether it turned out good or not, that was on that. So
Yeah, like during that learning process, what was something that was like the most challenging that you found during that process, whether if it was like interior, engine, or even just the exterior, like the paint job, like what was the one thing that you felt like you were hitting a wall, like kind of like, okay, I got to take my time here.
at first it was my paint and my body work. And then of course, I wasn't using airbrush on nothing. I was Duplicolor all the way rattle can. And then I met my buddy Dean, and he had his own body shop at his house, and he taught me how to, airbrush. So we went from there, and but when we painted my lightning, it's all in the prep work. So doing that on a 1-to-1 and then, just carry it over to the models because it's the same thing. Because if you don't prep it correct, get a good foundation, whenever you spray your colors and you clear, you're going to see places that you missed and stuff like that. So, and then just trying to overcome the thought of having to use an airbrush, because you take a rattle can, shake it, use it, and then turn it upside down and clean it, and you're done. Airbrush, you got to take it apart, clean it, and all that mess. So, but once I got over the fear of it, the only thing I use a rattle can for now is some of my or most of my primers, and then I got Mr. Hobby Matte Clear that I'll use, for like interior or chassis, something that I've already airbrushed, but I want to seal it. So that's basically the only time that I use a spray can anymore.
Nice. And that's something I wanted to bring up as to like what is your breakdown regarding like to having a good foundation from when you're, you know, from sanding the model to primering it, like the foundation before you even paint it. Like what grit sizes are you using? How do you go about prepping your body to start off with a good foundation?
I think I use it's some sort of 320 grit from 3M. It's all or I use a lot of automotive sandpaper just because heck, it's cheap. You can just go to the parts store and buy it. You can get a variety pack, but I think it's 320. But it's not a coarse 320, but it's a fine. So, first I'll get the body and I'll take plastic weld and just run all over the mold lines and stuff like that before I even sand. Just let that stuff just shrink back in there. And then I'll just take that 320 and I'll just sand all over it. And then I use from Transtar, it's an automotive filler primer. So I'll use that as my first primer because it's not thick, but it's a little bit thicker than, say, the Mr. Hobby primer. And then I'll go and take 800 grit and I'll actually, because once you got the gray primer, you kind of see the areas that you need to work with, and once I get everything seen, and I'll take 800 grit and I start wet sanding it, and I sometimes, there's some areas I'll take it right back down to the styrene, and then I, on the last build, I used a Mr. Hobby primer. I did it in the stages. Like what is it, 1,012 and 15, and I sprayed the 1,000, came back in here, and I think I wet sanded it with might have been 1,000 on it, and then when I sprayed the 1,200, it laid good, everything looked good, so I just put a light coat of the 15, and then I shot color and clear over it, and it all leveled out and was just perfect.
Dang, that's cool. Yeah, because like with this recent build, the Porsche that's right behind you, on your
Mm-hmm.
backdrop, you had sent me some photos, like once you had laid out like the purple color on there,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked like did you wet sand the body? It kind of looked like you had wet sanded it on there, like prepping it before the clear.
I I actually had some spots pop up, so I went ahead and I did wet sand the whole car again, just because I could see just seeing minor imperfections that that was OCD and killing me. So I had to order another bottle of paint from Splash for that car, and it got here and I shot it, and whenever I shot it, it all just laid. It was perfect then. And then, of course, once I did the decals, and the clear also helped level everything the rest of the way out on that thing. Because, whenever the clear, and because it's 2K clear, and whenever it hits the base, it just makes all that stuff just melt and blend and together and stuff. So I was really, really happy with that paint job on that car.
No, yeah, it's beautiful. Have you ever ran into any issues when you're clearing the model, like in certain areas where maybe, you add too much clear that it just like tightens up the spot whenever you're fitting your parts in, that you're like, damn, like I shouldn't have done that. I should have just stopped at that coat. I shouldn't have added more coats. Have you ever
Well,
ran into that kind of problem?
I used to in the beginning, but now that, you know, at first I was going to my buddy Dean's to actually paint. So, I'd use his paint booth and he'd mix the paint and, I'd spray it until I finally learned how to do everything. But once I got home, or once we got my building and, I started doing everything here, uh, I got to where I was thinning it out just a little bit more than what we were down there, just because, it's still thick. It was pretty thick. So I started thinning it out, and now I usually do about one, depending on what it is and how big it is. Um, I usually do about 1 to 3 coats of clear, and I just give it 20 minutes of flash, and then I just light coat back over it just to get it wet and let it sit for another 20, and if I think between the clear and the paint's good and, it's not too thick and, I'll just cap it at 2 most of the time. So, but this PPG clear and airbrush, I don't think well, I take that back. I have had to strip a few, but it wasn't because of failure with the clear. It was mishandling, if you want to say.
No, yeah, and yeah, man, because I don't know, it just looks crazy, man. Like when right now that I'm staring at the Porsche, like there's a lot of intricate areas, especially like on the hood. It looks like there's like separate parts that go in there, like in
Hmm.
those vents, and then also like a question I had was regarding your glass. Like I see it has like this like nice glare to it. Do you polish your glass as well prior to assembly, or you just don't even mess with the glass at all?
It depends on if, like if I've handled it too much and it's kind of like got some scratches on it, I might hit it with the wheel, with the compound just to, trying to get rid of some of the fine scratches out of it. But most of the time, I don't even touch it. Um, I know some of these cleaning detail products I got, because I use a lot of stuff from McGuire's or chemical guys. So that helps a lot of stuff too, because
Yeah, I like the Maguire stuff. That's what I use for like polishing my builds, like with the clear and just with like a rotary tool, just going back and forth. That's something that I really like doing. At first, I was very intimidated by doing it. I wasn't really too sure, like, oh man. But Scott Scale Builds, he walked me through like the process of getting the models like polished up and stuff and like
uh,
not staying just all in one area, just kind of keep gliding, keep moving, in different directions. And then there was also NYS Model too. He had some videos on polishing models, like hand sanding and doing all that with the clear, and that started to give me some confidence, to want to just jump in there and do it. And now I feel pretty comfortable. Like I'm not too scared. I just kind of just dive in there, turn on the Dremel tool and put on the bits and just get to work right there. What's tell us your process for polishing your clear. Are you using also a rotary tool, or are you doing it all by hand?
apparently you have never seen my YouTube video of how I polish.
Nah, you gotta send it to me, and then we gotta link it on
It's on
this.
Man Cave Models. I do have a channel on YouTube. It's Man Cave Models, but these are 3-inch foam pads that I put on. It's got a backing plate that it goes on, but I use a drill. Like just a standard drill. So I use 3-inch pads, and when everyone was first found out how I polish cars, how I
Yeah, I'm like,
polish
damn, a
model,
drill? I have
I
a drill
drill.
too, but I haven't used it for the model. Now I'm like thinking, man, I need to get one of those now?
Well, this is before all the smaller stuff or the rotary tools came out.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I don't like about a rotary tool is, you're only
Man.
set at 1 RPM.
Yeah, I got them right here. All
Yeah.
even these, the little tinier bits. Oh wait, there you go. These are tiny right here.
Yeah. Well, like I said, with the rotary tools, you're only set at 1 RPM. And with the 2K clear and stuff like that, you actually have to have heat to put into it to actually get that gloss, that deep gloss look. Because
Mm.
like whenever you clear and the base, it melts. You heating it up during the polishing process, it also melts it even more, and that's how I get the deeper shine out of it. But yeah, when everyone first found out how I polished them, there's like, there ain't no way. Now I'll be honest, I have burnt through, like on the edges and stuff, but the video will show and explain it all. I mean, I just basically set the drill on my leg right here, and then I take the body and I actually just work it with the pad.
Oh, okay, damn. Yeah.
Like say on the Porsche, if there's areas that I know I can't get into real good, and if I have the chance of um, burning through, I don't, I try to stay away from those areas. So I don't even, whenever I wet sand, I don't even wet sand them areas.
Yeah, this is the I was gonna show you the Dremel. This is the one I use. It's a micro Dremel.
Mhm.
And yeah, I had gotten this. It's been some years now from when I bought it. And yeah, it's just like the little chuck right here for the different drill bits and stuff. But yeah, this is the one I use for the most part. And I like it because it's wireless. I could just
Yeah.
power it and get to work with it. But obviously, like from using it, I have to like if this is the model, I'm going from up top, the sides and all
Mhm.
that. But right now, visually, thinking of the way you do it, having that drill and then just working it with the model. I got to see that video. I gotta.
Yeah. I'll have to send it to you, but um, I know I've tried like using the Dremel to polish metal with, and like it would leave like buffing marks, and because of the small pad in the small area, and with the bigger pad, you can tell if it's polished or not, and I mean there is no buffing marks or anything like that, like because you can buff a real 1-to-1 car, and if you buff it the wrong way, you're going to get the swirls, and you're going to see the patterns all over it and stuff like that. But you do it the right way and stuff, even with the Dremel. Some people get it, but I just I tried it with a few things, and I was just like, nah, this ain't for me. I'll just stick to what I know. Just stick to my old trusty drill.
Yeah, no, that's good. You gotta stay to your method. As far as like the side view mirrors and even like the wing in the back, is that something that you glue on separately, like later after everything's polished?
Yeah, unless like some of them, the Oldsmobile, I always glue the mirrors on those style of cars for some reason because they're bad about breaking off. So I'll uh, I'll put a peg, and when they're in the cleaning stages, I'll put like the mirrors on. But I waited to put the spoiler on until painted it separate from the body and waited until, it was polished before I actually put the spoiler on. But like I said, like around the mirror there, I'll go up so far around it and then just skip that way when I do come through to polish it, yeah, I won't even be touching it.
Nice. And right now, since we're talking about this build, I want you to like give us like a background, like tell us like how this project came together, like this Porsche that you built, the story behind it. I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Um, Most don't know, a lot do, but my niece was born with cystic fibrosis 10 years ago this year. So back up to 23, my son wanted me to go to Road Atlanta for Formula Drift to see Adam LZ, a YouTuber that used to do BMX stuff, and he got into drifting. So we got tickets, went down there, and that was the year that he decided to do a split year. So he was driving for RTR that year. So him and Von Gittin split the year up because he was kind of doing his own thing and stuff. And of course, that got me hooked on Adam. So I kind of started watching his videos. It might have been that year or might have been the year before, but he had a Porsche that was wrecked up on the tail of the Dragon out here in East Tennessee. And, but that got me to watching him more. And, and I've always wanted to bring, something on my car, culture side, you know, to help benefit with cystic fibrosis. So later that year, we got the chance to meet Adam. He came to Chattanooga uh, for the motor car festival and and stuff. Well, I was watching his video blog about it, and he starts talking about this guy named Sean. I can't. I don't want to butcher his last name, but I'm not going to say it. But he was talking with Sean, and I was like, well, "Dude, Sean lives here in Chattanooga." So the next video I see of him and Sean, and it was at a Porsche event that's over here in East Tennessee. That was called Smokey's GT. And during that video, Adam started talking about what all they do for cystic fibrosis and stuff. So I started digging in more into it, and then back last year, uh, like I said, I was following Sean, and on Instagram, and he posted something up, and we actually got to talking, and that was when he invited us to come up last year, for the first time. So we went on a Saturday, went to the live auction and dinner that night, and then the next day was ride-alongs up on a private airstrip in North Georgia. So back at the end of the year, I guess it was, when was it the 911 GT3 RS kit come out?
I don't know if it dropped around was it I don't know if it was December, January. I can't remember right now, but
That's
I
what I was thinking. It was somewhere right in there. So,
might have been
uh,
December, possibly like towards the end of the year
yeah.
last year.
So, but whenever they actually announced it and it was going to drop,
Hmm.
I I'd sent a picture of it to Sean. I'm like, dude, check these out. And he's like, those are cool. And I was like, I want to build one for the auction. And he's like, okay. He's like, whenever you get the kit, and all that. we'll talk and stuff. So it was January. He hits me up. He says, "Hey, since I work with model cars, they was building a 69 911 for a customer. And I didn't know the whole detail at the time, but they wanted, they had a dash vent, like center dash vent for this Porsche, and they wanted it from black to blue. And he's like, "You think you can take care of that?" I'm like, "Yeah." So they shot it, they shot the dash vent and paint to me. It ended up snowing. So when I finally got out there to paint it and got everything painted, I sent him, I hadn't cleared it yet, thank goodness. Seen him a picture and he's like, "Dude, that's your own color." I'm like, "That's the paint they sent me with. They sent me the paint for the body instead of the interior." So this was on a Sunday. He's like, "It's got to be this other blue." So I said, "Bring it to me tomorrow. I'll scuff everything." I hadn't cleared it. So I said, "I'll scuff it." Uh, I said, "I'll paint it and clear it, on that Monday night." And he's like, "We need it by Wednesday." And I was like, "You'll have it by Wednesday," because they were taking the car Thursday to Miami to a Porsche event to be unveiled with HRE and stuff for a set of wheels. So, this dash vent was in 47 pieces, I think. Got home, scuffed, painted, cleared it, came home Tuesday, put it back together, and he had it in the car Wednesday. And so, me and Sean started talking about, I was like, because this year was the 10th anniversary of this Smokies GT. And so with us, purple is like the main color, for cystic fibrosis awareness for us. And so I told him, I said, I want to do the car in purple or paint the sample ultraviolet. And then I think LB Production was who made the decals for it in white. And I said, I wanted to do the wheels white, you know. And I had, you can probably see across the front windshield, Smokies GT and um, cystic fibrosis banner. And then on the back glass, I put a 10th anniversary logo on the back. And, it's like I told him, I said, "This is something that's one off." I was like, "It's not like you can, go online and order it pre made and all that." And he was down for it. So, uh, come to find out, the dash vent for the car I did was for the guy that does the auctioneer, Chris. And, they tried to pay me, but I told them, "Don't worry about it," because uh, for the dash vent, because, what they raised last year, for cystic fibrosis alone, and what that group did, I mean, it was truly a lot. So, um, so get the car, get started on it, get it done at 4:45 Friday morning when I was leaving to go to North Georgia to go to the event. Get ready for the auction and stuff for Saturday night. And we get there, they're telling us because they actually threw my niece a surprise birthday party because she turned 10 this year also. So, and they have accepted her and our family just like their own. Uh, so, come to find out, Chris wanted uh, my niece to do the auctioneer for the model. So she did that, and purple car sold for $3,000. And then I also told Chris, I'm like, if it goes good and somebody wants another one done, like a replica, or just let me have free will, and just do any color I want to, I'm like, we'll do that. And he said, okay. So it's that one sold for 4,000, and Jamie from Dundon Motorsports bought both of them. So I'm getting ready to build what he calls his lap rack. So it's black and orange. But also this year was Hennessy Porsche in Atlanta, and Porsche actually built a one off. It's a one of one Smokies X edition uh, GT3 RS that was sold. Uh, Sean's company, can't, can't pronounce the name of it. They built a Safari Porsche, but I think after that weekend, they raised over $1.5 million alone for cystic fibrosis. And it's amazing that what they've done and what they're doing, Sean and one of the original owners, John, or original founding members, John, they started getting together and then they turned it in for cystic fibrosis because John's oldest two sons, they have it. So, uh, fortunately, he passed away a few years, and this year was a dream come true for all the founding members and the people there. To raise over $1 million finally. Make it 10 years. That was everyone's goal and dream, and be recognized by Porsche. And all these other stuff. It was pretty wild. And like I said, what they did for my niece. For her 10th birthday, she had 10 different gifts. The tables was 10 different themes of her favorite stuff. She had her own uh, butler, basically. They had brought her out a big old cake. Everybody sung to her. She was not expecting any of that this year. And, to see it and be a part of it, was real humble, and, you know, enjoyed every minute of it.
Or as as far as seeing like a car that you built being auctioned, and then for what it went for, and then later another one, for a future, build that you got to do, and
Hmm.
and just having, so like that model, they took it with them that
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. They took it with them. They're from, I think, Washington.
Mm.
So he was wanting us to ship it, and I said, "You ain't shipping this." So they had the car, they had the lab rat and another test car that was there, but they shipped them down here.
Uh-huh.
And I told him, I said, "Your best bet is to actually, put them inside the car and just ship them back that way." So
Like
that's
let
what they
them ride
did.
shot, let it ride shotgun.
Yeah. Well, see, he flew. So
Okay.
he flew here and flew back, but they had, he had his guys drive them down and stuff, or, trailer them down. So,
Dang, yeah, that's probably the best way,
hmm.
have it in there. Man, that's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool because it's milestones, but a lot of memorable things as well, you know.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you and the help with the kit and stuff like that, teaming up for the cause. Because,
Yeah,
you
man.
know, like we've talked, man, you've talked numerous times since,
Hmm.
cystic fibrosis it's a deadly disease, silent deadly disease that, it's not like cancer. Most cancers have a cure. There's
Hmm.
not a cure for cystic fibrosis right now.
Damn.
So, you know, we actually had a cousin. He was, of course, this has been years ago now. He had it. He didn't make it past the age of 16.
Wow.
Now the life expectancy, is gotten up into the 50s and 60s age. Where
Mm.
used to, they wouldn't even see him no more than 20 years. And, it's just like we was talking before, James Schultz, young model builder, I think that was his name. He has it, and you know he he was bad at one point, but he's doing better. Like I said, he's him and my niece are on the same. I think they're on the same medicine that's came out, and both of them doing really well on it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad, man. I'm happy to hear that they're doing really well, and I just hope they take care of themselves and, hopefully everything's good for the future, Um,
Hmm.
but that's tight, man, because it's something that, you did also for your family too, and I know your niece will always remember that,
Oh
what you
yeah,
did
she
there.
when
And
they're
and
I brought we was at the hotel the night before and she hadn't seen it, finished yet. So I
mm,
brought it into the room, and let her see it. And she's like, "You built that?" And I was like, "Yeah."
yeah,
She's like,
that's
"I
cool.
want one." I was like, "Yeah, I figured you would."
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a huge win too for, like, the representing, the model community
Hmm.
and everything as a whole. I'm pretty sure there was probably some people there at the event that were like seeing this as a model, like, what? Like, this was built. And I'm sure some people probably getting flashbacks to the past, like, probably building
Hmm.
models back in the day and stuff like that.
Yeah, Adam LZ was actually there that night, and he came up. We talked for a little bit there, and like I said, we'd already met him before, so I introduced him to my niece and my sister and brother-in-law, and but he said, "Dude," he said, "that model's killer." And I was like, "Man, I appreciate it," because I mean, coming from him, me and my son kind of look up to him and stuff, so. Uh, it was neat. I mean, the whole night was just one of the best experiences I've had in a long time. So,
No, that's dope. I want to real quick, I want to shout out some of the homies, some of the people that are on the chat right now. So shout outs to Luis Aguilar, Skill Model Cars, Kid Builder Chris, all the way in the UK. Skill Model Cars, he's out in Hawaii watching us right now. Crow Customs, also in the UK, and Armando Flores, he's on, and also George Vision 124 and Model Cars 1589. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Yeah.
yes, thank y'all. At
Yeah.
least, like I said, at least we ain't got a potato phone like George. I
Dang.
got to pick on George.
Yeah. Yeah, shout outs to George. He was on last week's podcast. So if you guys haven't seen that one yet, it's here on the channel on YouTube. You can find it. You could check that out right there. Um, so Shane, we got this year, there's some more events, but there's one event that I know you're planning on going. You've been going to this event for so long. I wonder if they have like an Acme like alumni or something where, like, you got like a sweater, from going so many years, you get recognized with like a jacket, a Letterman's jacket now or something. But
It ain't been that long yet, man. Come on.
the Acme show, I know, you've been going to that one. A lot of people know you. You see a lot of familiar faces, and I'm gonna keep talking about this show on the podcast. Vision 124 has been there. Tell us your experience for the Acme show in Atlanta.
Well, like I said earlier, I think it was 2012 was the first year that I went, and I went as a spectator, and uh, I went in there thinking, I built pretty decent kits or, builds. And till I went to that show, and then, like I said, I got with a bunch of group here, or small group, model car guys. And, I started learning stuff from other people because, I've always built model cars and it was just me and my buddies, or, we never did shows or, Krylon rattle pins. We didn't detail nothing. Didn't do chrome bare metal full nothing. And I started learning everything, and then I I actually built a first car, that had a lot of stuff. It was a Trumpeter 63 Nova. You know, I kept bashed with a Z06 Corvette and a Camaro for the motor and trans and heads and all intake setup. And then that was the first one I made headers using solder. You know, first one that I did exhaust pipes on. I'd already been using the flocking and the black wash by then. I was getting better at bare metal full, you know, but they didn't win anything because Atlanta's the hardest, probably one of the hardest shows to win at. Because there's just so much, you know, uh, talent down there. You know, the level of the build, you know, it's above and beyond than, you know, what you think or expect. So uh, I think it took me, like I said, I started going in 12. So it took me 5 years before I placed my first top 10 down there. And that was with the Mystic Chrome 71 F100 I built. So, but I mean, you know, the new venue, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better place. It's so huge, and you know they're still growing. I think the first year at this venue, there was 960 something cars on the table. So I mean, it's definitely a show. You know, a lot of people flock to it, especially on the East Coast here, because it's just one of them shows that you got to go to and not miss.
Man, and as far as like the process of the show, like let's say you get there and you bring your models and you want to enter them, are you filling out like all those sheets and the forms? Do you get to do that like that day or like a night before or when do you
Yeah,
get set up for that?
they actually do pre-registration. So, like up until a certain date before the show, uh, you can do it online. You can even pay online, and you can buy your early bird pass. And if you go to the display on the tables, you better get that early bird pass because previously at the other vendor or venue, by the time they opened the door to the public, there was no, there was hardly any places left on the table. Put them all. And so we've always bought the early bird, you know, get there at 8 o'clock, set up, you know, go get something to eat or, you know, do whatever. And then, you know, come back and then, you know, walk around the vendors. And like I said, there's tons of vendors down there. And, but yeah, but on Friday night, they have a meet and greet at the host hotel. And, everybody goes there, and then you know from a certain time you can go in there and get your early bird and your registration, get all that, and then you're done. You know, you just wake up the next morning, go in there at 8 o'clock, put your stuff down, and you're done.
Nice, nice. And as far as like is it more of a picks or is it like a judge, you know, like first, second, third kind of event in the categories?
They don't really do a category; they do a top 10, and like say if you pay to walk in or enter a model, you get a ballot. So you can go around and choose the juniors. I think it's 8 or 9, and then the best of show, and then you got two for whatever themes is. You know, whatever the themes is for that year. And then I just had a brain fart.
Yeah, so like the top 10, um, like that must be hard. I mean, versus what, like you said, like if it's like 900 models, you know that's a lot, man. That's
I
crazy.
mean, it's hard to, you know, of course, it's judged by the people, and, you know, it's hard to pick a top 10. You know, I mean, there's a bunch down there that they all, everything that's down there deserves something, you know, but uh it does get hard to pick, you know, your top favorites. So
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Um, but earlier you were saying something about like, getting the early bird pass, and if you miss out on that, a lot of times you show up and there's just no more room on the tables, like to put the models. I wonder if like, I don't know, like if there's somebody who shows up and they're like, dang, I can't put my models, anywhere. It just made me think about like those people that when you go to like a sports game and they got that strap around their neck and that tray, like if they're like mid-level, like stomach area, where they're
yeah.
carrying all the stuff they sell. If maybe they'll build like a little stage and they could put like a little turntable with their model on there, and
Yeah.
you're just
Just
walking
walking around
around the whole
with
show carrying this thing, saying what's up to everybody, like, yo, what's up? And just, yeah, here's my model right here, bro. Check it out. Get some
it. Yep.
shots.
I
Um,
know me and George in the past have gotten to where we just, you know, they do have like categories, you know, like hot rods, muscle, you know, stuff like that. But we got to where we just put all our stuff, unless we're in the theme, we just put all our stuff together and just be like, heck with it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that was gonna be another question. Like, do you guys, with your homies, you guys kind of just get together and be like, all right, we're gonna post up right here. Or you're
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna leave one model here, I'm gonna leave one model over there, and one over there.
no, we quit doing that over there and over there stuff. We just, like I said, you know, we try to put everything, you know, all, you know, no matter what it is, just all on one table in a group sometimes.
Yeah. Dang, it kind of reminds me of like NNL West. That's how NNL West was when I would go with friends. Um, like the first times I went, it was like, you walk around, all right, we're gonna set up right here. And then you have another group of friends that are like on a whole other side. And sometimes you just take over like a whole like section,
Hmm.
and stuff. And then there's some tables that are like there's maybe like a couple cars, there's no one really there. But then you got all the homies over here, like all the friends. And it's
Yeah.
like, dang.
Yep. That's how we do it.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
just
yeah.
put them all together. That way, you know, we all
And
just
the
watch stuff.
the the, the vendors, they're in a separate room, or are they kind of posted up in that within that area right there?
They're in the same room. The
Okay.
venue now, or it used to be in a little community center that was on the basketball court, or had a
Hmm.
basketball court, and they just outgrew it. I mean, they wasn't no room down there. So, uh, but now it's still all in one, just one area. But I
Hmm.
mean, it's huge.
Dang. And like the night before when people get together and hanging out, are they are they kind of like are they bringing some bills with them, or is it more just like a party night? Like let's just, go out and hang out, maybe get some drinks kind of thing?
Mm, we always bring, you know, like we'll bring some in, you know, and show off or whatnot like that. But
Yeah.
for the most part, you know, yeah, people do that. So,
Okay. Nice, nice. Man. Yeah,
but
it's something
I
I'm
know
very
last year we had our own model show at the Airbnb, so it was. I forgot if I don't think it was a pool table, but they no, it was a dining room table. We had all of our builds on it. Everybody that was at the Airbnb.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Just like set up right there.
Hmm.
Dang, that's pretty dope. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a lot of fun. Since we're talking about shows, let me grab a flyer real quick because I want to plug in the event for next year. Let me this right here. All right, let's see. Bam, this show right here coming up, guys. Check it out. I'm gonna keep mentioning on the podcast. We got the sticker, we got the flyer. I don't got much of these left, but all these I'm putting them in all the orders that are being shipped out from scaleriders.com. So first annual show, Left Coast Scale Classic 2026. This is taking place April 25th, Ventura County Fairgrounds, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Model car display and hobby swap meet. Admission is $25. So, man, this is gonna be a fun one right here. You know, it's gonna be next year. I know you've mentioned to me, Shane, that you want to come out to California. You've been telling me like, yo, I feel like going out to the West Coast, you know, checking out some cars and stuff like that. Have you really thought if you're gonna maybe make it happen this year or next year?
Uh, the Peterson is my main goal of going to see the Ken Block, the People's Champ. You know, he passed away a few years ago, and uh, I think this is the first time that all these vehicles that they have there has been underneath the same roof or been in the same room together at once. You know, so you got the Unicorn, the Hunitruck, the Hunapeg or the Hunapegas, his Cosworths, you know, the Fiesta, rally cars, one Fiesta and I think one Focus, you know, and then a bunch of memorabilia. So uh, whenever him and Ford split partners, he only got to keep two vehicles. So one of the Escort rally cars and the Unicorn is, I think, is what he kept. And they just recently, the Truck was just sold at Barrett Jackson last year, and the new owner let them, you know, have it on display, you know, for this because so. But I think it's over in October. But you know, this might be my only chance, you know, to actually get to see all the stuff in one place, you know. So uh, I got to meet Ken Block twice. The first time I built I think it was a Focus RS rally car, and I found a set of the 2010 livery decals. So I did like a tribute car because they hadn't had the Fiesta, the newer Fiesta or Focus kits out, and I actually have pictures of him, you know, holding it in his hand, looking at it, and then pictures of him signing it. So it's autographed on the top, and uh, I showed Larry Chin them pictures, and you know, Larry Chin was Ken Block is basically how he got his start, you know, in automotive pictures, you know, and what he does now. So I mean, he was like, "Don't ever get rid of that." I'm like, "Dude," I'm like, "You can't." I'm not. You know, you cannot put a price on something like that. And and it was pretty cool that he got to see it and stuff. And you know, it's over here in cabinet with the other two rally cars of it, Ken that I built. So
No, that's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I know, you know, when you come out here for that, I'm down the road with you. I want to check out that spot right there and just like see all those pieces they have right there, you know?
I don't know. I know. You know, they say to whenever you go there to go ahead and get the ticket for the storage room, but all the cars that they got down
Oh,
there.
it's it's like they keep it in a vault or something, right?
Yeah, the vault.
The
Yeah, that's
vault,
it.
yeah. Damn, that exclusive access to the
Yeah.
vault. Maybe you should bring a model and then hide it underneath one of the cars so then they'll say, "Hey, there's a hidden model in the vault that they found out 20 years later." Plan it now. Nah,
Yeah.
dang. That's crazy. Well, hey, what if you told Peterson, look at these pictures, this is the actual model, and they're like, oh, we want to keep it here for a year, part of the display. Damn,
Be
but
like, hey, I'll send it.
dang. I know you should talk to Armando. He's worked with Peterson Museum before, displaying a lot of his
Hmm.
original artwork, models, and different projects. So I don't know, he
Yeah.
knows more of the way that works, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's a new museum that's actually just down the road from where the Acme venue is.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Savoy Museum, and I've been down there once, and they've got all kinds of stuff. But they do like the Peterson. They rotate stuff out and stuff. So uh, they have had some of the Acme members, had their model cars on display in there. Depending on whatever the theme it was and stuff for whatever few months that they run it. So
Man, that's cool. And like after all these years, Shane, a serious question. What keeps you like still building models till this day, 2025? You've built so many models, we keep doing the repetitive thing over and over and everything. But what is it for you? What is it that satisfies you? What is it that like makes you keep building models?
just an enjoyment, and I do it as people go fishing or hunting, their getaway from get their mind off stuff, and I'll just come in here and throw music on, crank it up, and then just start working, start building, and like I'm not a rich person, so I don't have the money in the world, but I'm like, okay, if I had this car, this is how I'd build it, and as a 1-to-1, so that's what gets me going, and then see stuff from Can Dig It, Foos, Goolsby, bunch of these hot rod shops, and then Instagram gets flooded with stuff, and then the ideas in my head just if you crack my head open, it'd probably be a bunch of gears and some fuel and transmission fluid and stuff. Because it's like that's all I ever think about is car stuff.
Yeah, man, that's cool, man. You see, and that's the thing that I love about the hobby too, is because like all the different genres and things. Because let's say that I'm like, all right, I want to build my first rally car, for example, right? I want to get into it, but I really don't know like what's the right thing. I know I'm gonna do it most likely box stock, but still, if I wanted to add a little bit of flavor or something, I
Mhm.
know you'd be the guy that I'd ask about this, or the same. I'm gonna do a Ford truck, you know, you'd be the guy, yo, like what's really true to it. I don't want to be putting something on that you'd be like, hey, in real life, 101 scale, I don't think that's gonna fly, you
Yeah.
know.
Uh, yeah, because, I study the vehicles, I've always studied vehicles, like, what's the difference in this year to that year, what changed, just stupid knickknacks. It's just like, most people don't know the difference between the 71 or 72 Chevelle. Look at them, they look identical. On the 71 Chevelle, the park lights are actually looks like they're two separate ones. And on the 72, it's just a single. That's the only difference. 68 and 69 Chevelles, the difference between them was tail lights and where the fog lights was mounted on the front bumper. I think on 67 or 68, they were in the middle, and then 69 was on the outside. I can't remember now on them. But once I see a picture, I'll remember exactly what year was what.
And that's cool. What's something that you have, in the works for this year of 2025 as far as like builds, like, you know, do you have like one or a couple builds that you maybe think like, all right, these are going to be the ones for 2025 and then that's it, I'll probably prep some stuff going for like 2026.
Uh, I really brought back out the Mobius 56 Chrysler 300B. I'd started on it 4 or 5 years ago. Did a lot of body work on it already. Put a Viper V10 engine in it. Got it all mocked up and everything. And then once I got primer set on it, I put it back in the box and never touched it. So that is one build that I want to try to do and finish, for Atlanta this year. Uh, course, Scale Rider shop truck. I want to get it, bring it to Atlanta, and then I got to do the Dundon Porsche. And I told him that, when I build this one, I said I'm taking it to Atlanta. So, which that shouldn't be a big deal to build. Uh, his car is black stripes. So like I said, it'll be easier to build. I just need to find someone that can do the windshield and spoiler banner, or for me, because it says Dundon instead of Porsche on the back on the rear spoiler, and then have his logo on the windshield, so that way it's exact. But yeah, that's about it right now. And then of course I got my buddy's truck over here. I've been working on and off of it for a couple of years now, and I got to a point where I'm trying to figure out how to fake clear coat peeling. Like where it's been sunbaked, and it kind of looks like white and ashy. So I'm to that point to where I got to figure that out, and then once I get that done, I can start painting everything else and assembling it.
Nice, man. Dang, sounds like a challenge right there doing it that way, because you're so used to like prepping it, trying to do it the right way. And now
Well,
it's like,
even on the patina build, I will still take the time, sand smooth everything out, and then I went back through, I drilled the holes in the door where the trim used to be, and uh, the whiskey dents in it, and, little rust spots, but I still, scribe and sand and prep it just like I normally do. Just because I know on the Mobius trucks, I know where all the bad points are. So I had to get them out of the way and get them done.
nice. Do you have your models in front of you that you could showcase?
Yeah, I got some.
Yeah, let's get into the showcase right here. I want to see. I
We'll
want
figure
you
out
to
how to
share
set
with
that
us.
phone.
Yeah, go for it. If you want to get set up, and then I'll let you take it from there, and you could show
Okay.
us some of your builds right here. Dang, I need to come up with the name for this showcase segment right here, man. Be
Well, you do.
pretty cool, man. Hey, dude, thank you again for doing this because I know it's late. It's super late for you. I mean, right now it's like 11 p.m., You're probably already what in the 2 a.m. hour out in your
I don't
area.
even know.
Dang. Yeah, don't even look at the clock. Don't even look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, I'll let you take it from here.
Oop, get it back up here. All right. That's the 56 Chrysler. Used, like I said, shaved a bunch of stuff, kind of was inspired by uh, Rad Rods by Troy, the one that they built. So, um, Pegasus wheels, and then of course the back's just in the sleeve. But like I said, I got everything shaved. I got to uh, fix some areas, and then I want to try to do a reverse tilt hood on it. So uh, hopefully I can get it. I'm still debating on colors and whatnot right now. So, but I started sanding on it last night, so I'm gonna get it real sanded back out and everything, and make sure with another coat of primer everything's good. And then that's what I call Frank Jr. That's my buddy's truck. He's helped me a ton on my 1-to-1 F100, and I've always before I even met him, I loved that truck. So uh, like I said, it's right where it's needed. Ryan from Z Force Model Works, he actually, 3D printed his exact wheels and everything for me. And I'm using the motor from the Shelby GT500, and then I'm going to probably make an intake setup for it because his is not supercharged yet. And it's the same motor, 5.4 deal overhead cam, so it'll work out good on it. Then back to me for a minute.
Man, that's dope, man. Thank you for sharing that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those look very realistic, especially like the truck. And I'm excited for that Chrysler right there that you're working on. A long time ago, I used to have a couple of Chryslers, like the Mobius kits, and I
Hmm.
remember even purchasing the wagon. It's that the one Jimmy Flintstone.
Yeah,
I
the little
had,
two door.
yeah, the two door. I had that for a while. I remember I cleaned up the flash and everything, and I was considering building it and like swapping out, with one of the kids as like a donor. And over time, I just started acquiring more Jimmy Flintstone wagons. And at some point, I was like, you know what? What if I started just building all these different wagons? But eventually, what ended up happening is I never really got around to it. So I ended up gifting it to Casey, all the way in Australia. I ended up mailing it to him. I was like, "Yo, like, you can have it, because I know
Yeah.
you got one of these kids." And I don't know. I don't know what, if in the future we'll see that right there, but it's uh it's a beautiful model, those models, but just seeing some of the mods you did to yours, I love the stance, especially the wheels, man. The wheels are dope that you select.
Yeah, those are the 19Ds. I think that was the name of them. I can't remember.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said, I just got another set here because I bought two sets because I was like, those are,
Yeah.
yeah, the,
Oh, damn, the Pegasus.
yeah, it's those, but
Hmm.
back when they was doing the 23-inch sleeves,
Okay.
their 19s will fit in their sleeves.
Oh, nice.
So the back is a 23-inch, but
Hmm.
you can adjust it to be as deep or whatever you want to, which I will probably make them, pretty deep,
Yeah.
but
Man.
I'll show you some more.
Yeah, let's check it out. Keep it going.
All right, this is sorry, the phone's shaky and stuff. I couldn't find my tripod, but this is one I won in Atlanta 3 years ago, and I took a top 10. I got with Sammy over at Splash. This is factory Sienna. It's original color for Nosemobile. Uh, Tinted the back glass a little bit. The interior's flocked. Uh, Wheels are from Steve Zimmerman. Uh, Used some of the photo etch on it. Man, underneath the hood, I used most of the colors on it is from Splash. The metallizers. I used his red interior paint for the fender wells. Uh, just Detail Master and Protect braided lines and fittings. Uh, Shoot, I can't remember what all I done to it. Like I said, it took top 10 that year, and that was the first year at the new venue. So that was whenever there was 964 cars. I think it was. How many was down there? I used See if I shine the light better. The letters from the actual kit, I just used them on, the tire. So made it look like it was a uh, original. I don't know if it'll focus. A little bit of the interior there. I added the door lock knobs. Just small stuff like that. And I'll switch it back if you want. Ask any questions on it, and I'll set up the next one.
Yeah, so regarding like the back window, you said you tinted the back window.
Mhm.
What did you use to tint the back window on yours?
I still have some cans of the Model Master uh, tint. So I watched George, you and George the other night, and I didn't know Tamia was making it in a can where you could spray. So um, with the airbrush. But I'm about out of the Model Master stuff. I've tried the Tamiya smoke in the can, but I have had better luck with the Model Master stuff. So, uh,
Man, I slept on a lot of the Model Master stuff when they were announcing that they're pulling it off the shelves, so you weren't gonna be able to get any of that stuff.
hmm
And I used to see it a lot at like some of the hobby stores in the area, and also I think Michael's had some colors, like certain ones.
yeah,
And I mean they had testers, but I remember seeing like the the Model Masters, but I really didn't rush to go and like buy them all up and all this and that, right? I would just kind of see it and be like, ah, whatever. Like, I'm not really using those paints or whatever. And over time has passed, I'm like, man, I kind of regret, not buying some of the Model Master stuff.
yeah, yeah. They had some pretty wild stuff at one point. I think it's Testers and Model Master. They had a whole line of Boyd's paint. Hot Rods by
Mhm.
Boyd. They had colors, of the Illuma Coupe, the Shazoom. I mean, they had like all kinds of colors and stuff. But I, for some reason, with certain Model Master paint and stuff, I was never, it didn't work for me, or I didn't know how to use it and get it to work the way that I wanted to. So, you know, I just quit dabbing in it, and like I said, eventually, with rattle cans, Duplicolor is what I used for the long time. There was just so much. This is back before the price went up on all that stuff too. So
Mhm. Dang, you're getting that super cheap. They're very affordable.
Duplicolor used to be like $7.99, $6.99 a can. Now it's like $16 or $17 for one of them little bitty cans. I'm like,
Dang.
no, I'll just send Sammy some money and have him mix it, and I'll just shoot it through the airbrush now.
$30. Nah, they're gonna be so expensive. Um,
Mhm.
One of the things I really liked about the Model Masters was their brushes and regarding the tools, and also they had a tack cloth. And
Mhm.
I remember buying like tack cloths from other companies, and when I would open up the package and get the tack cloth off, the residue in it would be very sticky and it would leave like some adhesion on my fingers. So it prevented me from wanting to even touch my model, I was like, I don't want to like rub this stuff on there. So then
Yeah.
when I got the tech cloth, I bought a pack that was from the Model Master, and I remember like taking it out, getting it like, you have to open it up and then you kind of throw it in the air, whatever, and you ball it up or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was like, yo, I really like the way this feels. And then just started kind of, dusting off whatever little particles was there. I would grab it. I would use the airbrush, just blowing out air, high PSI and all that. But whenever I had to like just come through and like clean it, I really liked the way it worked and just the way So later I ended up buying another one, you know. So now I had two, and then I held on to it like package for so long because I already knew like all this is being pulled from the shelf, you can't once it's like dead stock. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Mhm.
And I finally not too long ago had to crack one open, like my last one. And I still have it. I still have it. I don't want to give it up. Even if it gets all dirty and everything, I'll probably still hold on to it.
Yeah, I think the tack cloths I bought was from Hobby Lobby. And, when I first started using them, the same way, it was like leaving residue. So I got to where, when I tack it, I would wear, like a rubber glove and, tack it down and whatnot. And then if I seen anything, of course, I always had a can of air out in the building. So I would just take that can of air and just blow the rest of it off and then fine and dandy from that.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, let's see, model car 1589, he wants to know regarding the tint if you're painting it or spraying it from the inside or the outside.
Spray it from the inside, and like George says, you got to do it in light coats and do not rush it because if you spray it on thick, it'll run and separate, like around the edges, it'll be darker there than it would be in the middle.
And they got another question, but this is going back to real quick to the Acme. Ryan wants to know what hotel is near the Acme event that or like the I guess it's like the
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 host
host
hotel,
hotel. Yeah.
yeah, it's a Marriott,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, but it's actually connected to the convention center. So you can actually walk out of the hotel, down a little breezeway and all that, and you're there at the show. But
Okay.
those rooms tend to book up really, really fast.
Yeah, yeah, no, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure if we can't get one of those, then it's probably gonna have to be something far, or if not, maybe no hotel. Just stay at the airport. Nah,
The airport's a lot farther than the hotels are.
yeah, it's
'Cause
probably like an hour away, huh?
about an hour, maybe an hour and a half north of Atlanta. It's
Hmm.
actually not in Atlanta. It's in Cartersville, Georgia. But we still call it the Atlanta Acme Show. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Dang. What's something you recommend, like to as far as eating, like something that I won't forget that I'll be like, dang, I was out here, Georgia, got something dope to grub. I don't know.
have you ever ate at a Cracker Barrel?
Nah. Mm-mm.
Well, there's one there, and every time we get down there, that's the first place Ricky Wallace wants to go.
All right. That sounds good.
But I banned him from it this past year because I was like, no, I don't want Cracker Barrel tonight. I was wanting some pizza or something. So
All
they
right.
got this uh, little, yeah, it's kind of like a mom and pops, but
Mhm.
they've got quite a few different like franchises. But it's called Gondolier Pizza, and it was on point that night. We was all happy with it, but
Let's see.
it's a big joke between me and Ricky is Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel. All right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I'll be down for like whatever. We're all like linking up, see what's up.
Yeah, we're not far from Kennesaw. There's a lot more stuff down in Kennesaw than in
Mhm.
or Cartersville. So
Okay.
you got bigger name places, franchises down there. So
Nice.
and Kennesaw's home of one of the biggest hobby towns in the U.S. It's used to be an old theater, so it's huge.
Dang. So they converted an OG theater into a hobby store, the Hobby Town.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you walk in, it still has the bathrooms on the right, like it was, when it was a movie theater.
Man, that's interesting. Normally, out here I see old theaters be converted into like churches. But to see
Mm,
it into a hobby store, that would be an interesting one right there.
yeah, they got one whole room that's just full of RC cars, and it's pretty cool.
Man, and as far as like when you're gonna go to the show, are you prepping really well? Like, you know, are you looking into buying a lot of stuff when you go to these shows, like with the vendors?
Not really. Uh, Not like I did when I first started going to shows. I think it was the second year I went to Acme. There was a lady down there. Her husband had passed away, and she was down there selling his kits. And they told her, this kit's worth this, da 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 da. And by 10 o'clock, she was done, and she was selling kits for $5 and $10, still sealed. And rare, hard to find stuff. And me and my son was walking out of there with armloads, just of kits. But I've slowed down, past 5 years or so on buying kits just because, got a crap load already now that, in my lifetime, I don't think I'd be able to build them all. But uh, so I just look for certain subject and stuff like that now. I don't just buy whatever just because it's $5.
Yeah, no, yeah, that happens, man. I mean, I think we're all guilty of it, you know. There's always like a
Impulse
moment
buys.
where you're just like, oh, hell yeah, this is a good deal, good price, you get it, and then next, you got a bunch of stuff, but then you're like, man, like when am I gonna
Mhm.
start building these, And eventually it kind of shifts, like you'll start to not buy as many kits, but then you start really like stocking up on the detail parts, maybe a little bit of tools here and there, but or you stock up more on wheels, you start to really like kind of taper it as to like what you're looking for, what you need and what you want to create.
Yeah. Yep. That. What I got in mind or what I'm planning out, that plays a role in it too. Like what I want to find and stuff. So,
Mhm.
but I got two more here we can show real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Of course, this is a little shop truck I built. It's 72. Of course, Ryan did the wheels on it. These are the factory F100 hubcap wheels. Of course, did the patina. I built one of these trucks back in the very beginning when they first came out, and the guy offered me some money, so I sold it to him, and I regretted selling that truck. So I was like, okay, I'm to this point now. Let's redo it. Uh, I don't know if I can get the hood opened up far enough to see in it because it's hinged. But Ryan 3D printed me some custom inner fenders there. Of course, it's wired and plumbed like normal. And then this one I did. This one was done actually 3 years ago. Of course, I built it. You know, same colors as my 1-to-1 truck, but I just reversed the combination. I wanted to replicate a true Ranger XLT, so it's got all the wood grain. Um, I made a flat lift on it, used JPS wheels and tires. Ryan, I had him cut me some aluminum sleeves for it. Uh, did the wood grain on the tailgate panel. And I don't know if you can see under the hood of it. Let's see. Listen, I did a little bit more detail under the hood, battery cables, all that. Like I said, this one was built. I took it 3 years ago because this was the last year. It was at the last year. It was at the old venue, and took a top 10 with it down there that year. And the Oldsmobile was the first year at the new venue 2 years ago that I won top 10. So, but now that they have finally came out with they're done the engine for my the motor that I put in my 1-to-1 F100. I will be building it sometime soon.
Nice, dude. Those cars are so sick, dude.
Appreciate it.
Nah, man, they're bad. That truck right now, that last one, the one you did, how you how you said you reversed the colors. I know
Mm-hmm.
you had shown me a photo of your 121 scale truck, and that came out really dope, dude. It's like very clean, and I love the clear, just the way everything is like laid out on there, you know?
Yeah.
It looks very realistic, that's for sure.
Like I said, I can't get pictures of it, but the inside on the door panels has all the wood grain on it, just like, because Ranger XLT is the highest trim level that you could get. So, and it probably didn't pick it up, but the side trim on it is actually, I used a brown Sharpie over the chrome. So it kind of, gives you a little bit of a brown hue down through there because the 1-to-1 trucks have wood grain down it instead of, because the regular Ranger only has black painted in the on the trim. So, like I said, I was trying to do it, as close as I could get to, a true and replicate it just like a true Ranger XLT, because that's what mine is. And like I said, I'm about to probably after first year, I'm going to start on, building the replica of my truck. So, uh, Ryan's got some stuff in the works, for front fender wells, that way you can slam them. And we're trying to figure out something, for the bed, that way you can slam it or, just even using it as I like doing static drops. I do like stuff all laid out on the ground and stuff, but I tend not to go that far, on one all laid out. So, but
Yeah, and when you say like static, is that more like you're doing more like the curbside route, where you're just gonna like strip stuff down and just go really low, or you're still trying to use like, a lot of the undercarriage parts and everything, but just trying to take it down.
yeah, just keeping, everything, the geometry of all the suspension, you just raising, lowering the height down and not all the way on the ground. Of course, I've got a couple of frames here, for builds that I might sometime build, uh, that I do want to lay frame, have it laying on the ground. I think it's 65 F100 that I've got. I want to lay it all on the ground. Have an air ride, the tanks, the lines, and detail the far out of it as I can.
Man, that's cool. And like all these models that you finished, are you keeping them there in that room, or are you keeping them in a whole separate area like on display?
Most of them are in here in the room. You know, like I said, I've been redoing the basement here, so probably this week while I'm off, I'm going to get the display cases put back up on the wall because I got 4 or 5 display cases, and of course some of them's got die cast in it, and because I got back in some of the NASCAR die cast, and so I've been buying them. Like I need another hobby.
No, yeah, man, it's hard. When you're into one thing, it's easily like it's so easy to get into other stuff, and then later you go, wait a minute.
Dude, it's like I got 6 different hobbies that ain't cheap. I got the one-to-one truck, models, die cast, and then, I've been automotive memorabilia and stuff like that, just wild, crazy man cave stuff. And it's just, like last year, past couple of years, I got big into, RTR and their team, in the Formula Drift. And so I got a bunch of their stuff and that I've got hanging on the wall. Of course, I bought the big Larry Chin print of Ken Block up on Pikes Peak. I think his poster's like 4 foot by 6 foot. It's all framed, Larry had signed it, so it's up on the wall. Stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff whenever Ken Block was racing, that I wanted, but at that time, raising kids and stuff like that, I didn't get a chance to buy. So, you know, kids are grown now and everything, and some other stuff happened in my life, and I'm like, if I got the money to buy it, and I bought it. I'll go buy it. Just so I can have. I've got one poster in there from Chelsea DeNofa that he only signed 10 of them, and mine's number 7 out of 10. And like I said, whenever Ken Block passed away, a lot of that stuff just went sky high through the roof. And I do have quite a bit of stuff, autographed from him, from meeting him, and it's just stuff that I like and enjoy, like, hey, I met this guy, and then, unfortunately he gets killed in a crash. And
And yeah, it has a lot of sentimental value. Like, yeah, there's no
Mhm.
way you're gonna get rid of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you can get it, hey, just do it, enjoy it. It's like what are we waiting for?
Mhm.
We could
Yeah,
do it.
'cause
Let's do it.
can't take it when you're gone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I remember back then going to like a store, like a show, and I'd see something and it'd be right there, and I'd just be looking and like, oh, how much is it? All right, I'm not thinking about it, walk away, still thinking about it, then come back and then it's gone.
Hmm.
And I'm like, dang, I should have just bought it. Should have bought it
Yeah.
right there and then. And now, nah, now like if I want something, I'm just I'm just gonna get it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
wait. Yeah, I can't wait on that stuff no more, man. Yeah, I gotta get some stuff in here, man. I gotta hook up this spot right here. I know I have some posters of stuff that I need to get framed. I have like a lot of like car stuff and other art stuff that I need to get framed. I
Hmm.
just have them in the rolling tubes right now, like stored away, you know.
Yeah.
But
I've got some like that still, like,
hmm,
when we met Ken Block, we got a bunch of them posters because I mean they was handing them out for free, and we got he signed a bunch of them, and I still have some of them left over, and but I'm like I'm not getting rid of that stuff just because
hmm,
one day somebody will want it, maybe my time gone and son and grandkids and stuff like that, they can benefit from it, or they can
yeah,
keep it themselves.
true. No, that's true, man. And as far as like let's talk about your workspace, like your bench and all that.
Mhm.
You built that big room and everything, and you've told me about your airbrush. You also did like an airbrush booth, right?
Yeah, I've got a 10 by 20 building that I paint in because we have gas here, natural gas. So everything's down here in the basement. And so I keep painting here because of the fumes. So I bought the building. When I bought it, someone had already went through, insulated it, put walls up and everything and work benches and shelves and all that. So it wasn't nothing to build the paint booth and then, got power out there. So, I mean, get out there and paint, I got a dehumidifier out there. So it stays 50% humidity all the time. And I haven't had no issues of any of my paint jobs or anything like that. So, but down here, this is basically my mom and dad bought this house in '88, and they've been here ever since. My room's always been in the basement, and of course we moved back in, me and my ex, to take care of my mom. While dad was at work because she was going down in health, and then whenever she passed a few years ago, my sister didn't want the house because they live in Georgia, and so I bought the house just so and but this basement has not changed since 1988. And I was just like, when everything happened, I was just like, all right, it's time. It's time to remake this and, finish it up and do it how I want to. That way I'm happy and stuff.
No, yeah, that's dope, man. Get to spend like a lot of time down there, I bet. Especially
I,
even if you're not building, just hanging out, chilling, maybe watching a show or something or
yeah,
catching a race.
probably seen the big old TV on the wall. And, like I said, dad's still alive. So he stays upstairs, him and my son. So, deal was when I bought the place, everything up there stayed the same, nothing touched, just because. So that's how we do it. And I told my son, I'm like, something happens, I'm like, I'm probably gonna just stay down here because I've just been down here so long and I'm just more comfortable down here.
Yeah, dang, staying true to the name, Man Cave Models, dang.
That my buddy came up with that name because of this down here.
Oh,
'Cause
no
that's where
way.
I'm always at.
Oh, nice. That's cool. So, regarding like the state of the hobby right now with 124, 125th scale, model cars and all. Do you like the direction, the speed of where things are going right now? We saw a huge change with 3D printing, enhancing the model game. There's also, people getting things chrome plated. There's all these different variables and different things. There's a lot of options now.
Hmm.
But how, from you seeing the transition, everything all this time to now, are you happy with, the way things are moving?
Oh yeah, it's definitely making, you know, like 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted something, you had to make it out of clay and then, you know, make you a mold and then you pour resin. You had all that. And I like 3D printing to a point, but whenever you 3D print a whole model, sometimes that kind of, I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way and I don't know how to explain it. Uh, but, with 3D printing, stuff is a lot more clean and crisper than, casting resin on it. So, but they're finally, the small car companies are finally, coming out with stuff that had never been, released only once or something like that. And then Mobius is killing the game, and they're bringing out a lot of stuff that was overlooked previously. So uh, like I say, Mobius is probably one of my favorite kits. Tamiya, I like theirs. The Porsche, that thing went together like a dream. So, but it's definitely going in the right direction, and a lot more people are getting involved just because like 20 years ago, there's some stuff you couldn't do, but now with the 3D printing, stuff's available.
I do see a lot of you know, people getting into the printing, starting like their own business, you know, selling downloads and prints and everything. But I do see a lot of people as well, like adding those 3D printed parts into their builds, interiors, you know, some exterior parts, things
Mhm.
that are just like, you know, really hard to get, and some things that were never made before, and now they're here. Um, and I do see like a big focus on like detail parts, interior, the engines, and a lot of people wanting to learn to up their skills with painting, clear
Mhm.
coating. I feel like you know, like LEDs or just like lighting is like electronics like that is gonna be the next things we need to kind of incorporate, whether we're getting into lights or even at some point finding function, like making it more function, where maybe you know, I mean, obviously like with lowriders there's hoppers, but I would
Yeah.
say if you could find a way to maybe add something where like maybe the engine is running, or maybe the car can actually, you know, four it could drive like remote, like kind of like a little mini RC, but like yeah, you can do that, but still keeping the interior tub, still trying to fit the engine and the, you know, the trunk setup. That's gonna be the challenge.
Yeah.
So,
I know there was some company, ARI or something like that. They used they used to do some that were, it was a model, but it had a motor in it. You know, but the interior pan, I mean, it had interior, but I mean, it was so shallow. I mean, it wasn't even that deep. But you know, yeah, the LEDs, the lights, heck, they're even doing LEDs on diecast now. Uh, Jada just came out with the RTR Spec 5 Mustangs, that they actually drive in Formula Drift. They have the underglow underneath it and the interior. So when you open the door, the lights come on, and I was just like, that's pretty rad right there. But
mhm,
technology is advanced a whole lot, on everything, not just, models, diecasts, and stuff like that, but, you know, it's crazy how far it has gotten because, me growing up, I'm 44, I just had regular Hot Wheels, and every
mhm.
now and then you get a red line, but, and then what, 10, 15 years ago, they started getting, you got Johnny Lightning, Green Light, and all them coming out with stuff that, why wasn't this around when I was a kid? Because I'd played with it then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just putting it up on the shelf,
Wrong timing. Yep.
but it's definitely, technology's came a long way, not in all aspects of everything.
Hmm. Yeah, one of my friends, he you know, he's in the Hot Wheel world. He does customs and everything, but he prints, like there'll be like a new car that will drop, you know, and then he'll buy it, he'll open it up, and then he'll start to tweak, you know, creating a new interior, a new, you know, having like an engine, like all these different little
Hmm.
components of detail, and he'll start to add those to his builds, and I'm just like, dude, like what the heck, like nothing. He just gets on it, and he gets started like working on it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that's out now, a lot of lines, a lot of different diecast brands. I need to see that Jada stuff that you're talking about. I haven't seen those. I'm just curious to check it out, like the how the lighting is and all that.
Yeah, I'll have to, like, I'm in the display case. I'll get one out and take some pictures and shoot it
Yeah,
to you.
that'd be pretty cool. Cause yeah, I feel like, you know, that's gonna be, I know for myself that that's something I want to add. You know, I feel like I need to find the right size LEDs, the wires, everything, and the switch, getting all the
Mhm.
components so this way I could solder. all the parts and everything in there and do it all myself. I know they sell the kits and all that, but I kind of want to just do it myself and like start getting into that, you know. Learning ways of how to hide everything too, and
Yeah.
where to position like the on and off switch, where is going to be the tiny little battery pack for it. So this way I do have some easy access. So when the time comes to, open up the model and like swap out the battery, put it in. The this one build I did, it's like an Aoshima Cedric car. I did add little LEDs to the headlights, the tail lights, and two interior lights. But I didn't solder any of that. That was all pretty much done with this kit. These I bought everything separate, but it's from Mr. Hobby,
Hmm.
and you pretty much can connect like everything on there, and it has an on and off switch too, the battery pack and all that. And it was really easy. I mean, this was more intended for the Gundam figures, where you could like run the cables, fit the battery pack and everything. But I ended up using it for this build, and I was like, oh, this was easy, like this was fun, but I know that I'm not gonna be able to find these parts all the time, you know, for future builds. Eventually, I'm gonna have to do it on my own, like finding some other company parts and not let it be, not have to depend too much on like the Mr. Hobby stuff because it is hard to come by
Hmm.
on those sites. Yeah, I need to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I got one of the, what is it, Aoshima, the Toyota mini truck with the camper on it. I
hmm
got one of them. I definitely want, put the underglow underneath one of them. So with the camper shell, I mean, heck, you can paint, because I think it's all color except for the back glass. You can just tint the back glass, put some magnets in there, that way it'll hold the camper top on it, so you can hide all the battery pack and switches in it. So I'm wanting to do it, like the old school lowrider, the old school colors, but I definitely want to have the neon underneath it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Do you also use do you tend to ever use like magnets on your builds to like hold things together?
I haven't. I know Gerald from Denton Side Garage. He's used a lot on some stuff, and I haven't bought any yet, just because I don't know exactly what size and stuff to get. So I'll probably, whenever I do it, I'll probably get with him. He actually uses them on his wheels. So he'll, like whenever he builds a truck that's all slammed and stuff, and he's got like a nice chassis that he's got detailed, he will actually use the magnets on it and the bed. That way he can just lift the bed off, that way you can see all the tubing and airlines and all that stuff, uh, which is pretty cool. So if I ever get to that point, I'm going to pick his brain on it.
Man, that's cool. Well, hey Shane, we're gonna wrap up this episode. Any shout outs or anything you wanna say? Some words before we end this episode?
I have no clue. Uh, Definitely appreciate you and appreciate the help, that you do for us and the hobby. You know, I think this is fun to do. And, it gets people involved and, I kind of been in the slump. So, it's kind of helping me, all right, Acme's coming up, time to buckle down. I'm going to have to get some stuff built, something built. Because I hadn't finished, last thing I finished besides the Porsche was the Oldsmobile, and that was 2 years ago this year. So, might have been three. Heck, I don't remember. Two. Yeah. So, uh, just Guess that's it.
Right on, man. Nah, dude, thank you. Thank you for for being part of this episode, taking the time because I know there's a huge, time difference, but I'm very happy that we were able to like get this episode recorded today, and also thank you everybody that tuned in, that joined us, from the beginning and later those of you that joined too and participated in the chat room as well.
Yep,
Um,
definitely. Thanks to all of them.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And
Can't forget all that.
on Instagram, I mean, you guys need to check out Shane if you haven't. Make sure you check him out on there. It's slammed I am
Yep. Oh one.
oh 01. There you go. And
Yep.
yeah, and once this episode comes out, I'll definitely also link I need to start linking the Instagram links onto the description. So this way it makes it a lot easier. You guys can just click that and be able to see some of the work Shane has done, from present going all the way back, back in time. It'd be like a nice timeline there that you guys can
Yeah.
see. And
There's definitely more stuff on the Man Cave page on Facebook because that's where it all started. That's what I started out doing was over there. I created a page that way I wasn't cluttering up my regular Facebook with model cars that nobody didn't want to see. So I created the page, and it's grown to it's over 5,000 followers now on it, and I'm over 5,000 on Instagram right now. So, but definitely appreciate you asking me to come on here and do this. And, truly honored and had fun, and maybe now I can get motivated.
Hell yeah, man. That's cool, man. I'm happy to hear that. I like the motivation part right there. That's awesome, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through it. We get into a little slump or we're kind of a little stuck and we're kind of like, oh, like, but yeah, it takes a little bit of time, a little, some motivation, some push, and we just gotta keep moving forward with it right there. But
Mhm.
like you said, Atlanta's coming up and we gotta, hunker down and get ready
Yep.
start.
They'll be here before we know it.
Yep. Yeah, because even like for myself right now with this Corvair build, I'm just like, all right, I need to get on it. I'm going live as I'm working on it, but you know, I don't want to leave no one hanging like, damn, whatever happened to that build? He never even finished it. I gotta
Yeah.
deliver. I gotta deliver on my part right here.
Yep.
So everybody watching, just know that, Tuesday, 10 p.m. The plan is to have a podcast every Tuesday. I'm trying to lock that down. Like that's gonna be the date right there. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. With different guests. And then throughout the week, I'm just gonna mix it up, just kind of spontaneous, in the late hours of the night to go live and work on the Corvair. So I'm already busting out the tools, and later this week I'll jump on to do, continue on where I left off from last time. And yeah, I just gonna we're gonna end things right here. So this was episode number 255 with Shane, aka Man Cave Models. Thank you guys for tuning in. Keep on building and have a good night, Shane.
All right. You too. Thanks, everyone.
All right, man. Peace.